On this episode of Common Mystics, we discuss our grandfather just in time for Father's Day. I'm Jennifer James.
I'm Jill Stanley.
We're psychics.
We're sisters.
We are common mystics. We find extraordinary stories in ordinary places, but today's stories are all in the family. About our Grandpa Stanley.
We just called him Grandpa because we didn't know another grandpa.
That's true.
We didn't know another grandpa. But Jen, why are we talking about him?
He is one of our soul group of spirits who's always around us. It's always Mom, Grandma, Jeannie, Grandpa. But we haven't talked about Grandpa yet.
Mom, Grandma, Jeannie, Grandpa. That's right.
Right. And Dad's been showing up a little more lately, but he's still not one of the main four.
No.
He will make a personal appearance every now and then.
He will make his presence known when he needs to, like when he's being like all like trying to be a father all of a sudden in spirit. I'm like, okay, calm down, which is nice, but it's still like on the everyday, it's Mom, Grandma, Jeannie, Grandpa.
100%.
Yes. And the thing is about Grandpa is that he was the first to die out of our people, right?
Right.
And
how old were you when he passed away?
I was 12.
Yeah. And I was 19.
Yeah. And so, and he wasn't a part of the mythology around like mysticism and that kind of thing.
No.
But he didn't question it. He went with it. You know what I mean? He went with it.
Mm-hmm.
He's also overlooked because he's overshadowed by some of the really strong female characters in our family, like Mom, Grandma, and Jeannie.
Right. He was married to our Grandma Irena, whom we talked about in one of our earliest episodes, and he was our mother's father. So
I think it was episode number 2, if I'm not wrong.
I think you're right. And so Grandma was, of course, she was the matriarch. No question. She was the one in charge, and he had 4 daughters. So it was like Grandpa and all of these women. So, and all of the women in the household and the family are all very mystical. And Grandpa didn't officially buy in, like that was not his jam.
True. But doing the research for this episode, there's a lot about Grandpa that I did not realize.
Well, you had to do a little bit of research into like Poland, right? And World War II.
Right. I knew a lot. See, that's what I know Grandpa as an energy, as a person in my life, but he was very quiet.
Yes.
And he did not devolve personal information the way Grandma did. Like if you were sitting at Grandma's kitchen table, you will get story after story. That was not Grandpa.
No, Grandpa was more quiet, and as we'll talk about memories later, but when he did talk, it was just about what was happening, like what needed to get done, what needed to be fixed. It wasn't like stories from his past.
Right.
And as we see, when we get into some of his background, even his daughters said that he didn't like to talk about the war.
Mm-hmm. So this is what we don't know for sure about our Grandpa Stanley, which is ironic because I did not know any of this until I was like, oh, Jen, there seems to be some discrepancies with his birth date and with where he was born. See, this is what I knew. I knew that Grandpa was born in Poland. I knew this. This is what I knew. But I also knew that when they were coming to America after the war, Grandpa had to go to the Russian government and ask for an official document saying like, hey, I was born because Russia took over Poland, right?
I think technically didn't Germany take part of it and Russia took the other part? They kind of divvied it up. They carved up Poland.
So after World War II, it was all Germany, wasn't it? I'm sorry. It was all Russia, I thought. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He had to contact Russia to be like, hey, I need my birth certificate or something saying I was born.
I will say this. Definitely the part of Poland that Grandpa was born in was no longer Poland by the time he was needing his birth certificate and records after the war was over.
Exactly. And a lot of the records had been destroyed because of the numerous wars happening in that area, right?
Right.
So I have the official document from Russia saying this man was born. But what I didn't know, and until I was doing the research for this episode, is that there's a lot of speculation about Grandpa's actual birth date and where he was born. So apparently, the July 24th, 1919,
Right. That's the date we went with as a family.
Isn't that crazy? Like, we picked Grandpa's birthday, and like,
Well,
Grandpa
no,
was like, yeah, that's good.
No, that's one of the dates that shows up in the actual documentation. And so I know that we went with 1919.
And then he had another date that was in a different year. And so we had this conversation about like, when was Grandpa born?
Right. And you were surprised by this, but this is information that I knew as a child because remember how Mom used to do everybody's astrological charts by hand because she loved doing it? I remember her talking to me about Grandpa's chart and how it was a particular challenge because she didn't have the exact date. They weren't sure of it. So I remember having that conversation with her. And she's like, I don't know if it's him or not. Let's take a look. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
So I do remember that. But it's funny that you didn't know that until today. Until we were talking today about the records.
Literally, today or yesterday was like, that's insane. So what we do know for sure is that Grandpa was raised in southeastern Poland, most likely, which is now part of Ukraine. So that kind of sucks. It makes it a little bit more sad, thinking about the turmoil in Ukraine right now.
Right. Also sad for Grandpa because his literal homeland was taken over.
And it was not just once. Where he was living was part of this land that kept being invaded. Like, they wouldn't leave Poland alone, right?
Right.
So part of it was that there's constantly wars over the land in that area for whatever reason. Okay. Well, we know that Grandpa's father was a moderately wealthy landowner, and his name was Martin, and I don't know how to say it in Polish, but basically it was like Marciś or something. I can find out from my Google Translate. So I put in Martin on my phone, and this is what came up in Polish.
Jaskółka oknówka.
That is not accurate.
That is not his name.
No,
that was not his name.
If you spell it for me, I'll say it.
Marcin.
Marcin.
But like in Polish.
Marcin.
Oh, that's better.
I don't know.
That sounds right.
That sounds
right. We can call Jan real quick and be like, how do you say your grandfather's name?
All right. We'll be on the phone for 45 minutes. She'll talk about her ex-husband and all her bosses. Sorry.
That should be the detour.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, well, I was thinking that because I have 45 minutes of me asking Janet questions about Grandpa. And yeah, it's 45 minutes of exactly that.
Okay, let's keep going.
Okay, so we know that his father was a moderately wealthy landowner. We also know that he was a person that had political connections, if not a politician himself.
I remember Grandma telling me that Grandpa's family were millers.
I did not know that, but I did just today. You've given me information. Apparently, our cousin Stephen was doing some genealogy in Poland.
And that does come up
in one of the documents.
Yeah. Keep going.
So he had a lot of kids. Grandpa had a lot of brothers and sisters. One sister, actually, and I think 3 brothers, 3 to 4 boys in the family. And I do know the daughter's name was Stephanie.
Yes.
And you know what's ironic? She looks so much like our Jenny.
Oh,
Renee's daughter.
Second
cousin, Jenny. Yeah, she does. Like the cheekbones.
Interesting. I didn't notice that. I'll have to go back and look.
There's a picture of Stephanie on Facebook. Okay, so now pre-World War, Grandpa, young adult living in Poland. He was actually a police officer. What did you find out about that from Janet?
Janet said that our Aunt Janet said that he was a police officer in Poland and he rode a motorcycle.
That's cool. I knew we have a photo of him wearing a uniform, but we weren't sure of the context. Like we knew he was a police officer, but we didn't know where or when.
I thought that he was a police officer in Germany during the war, but I was wrong. So he was a police officer in Poland before the war. And then what happened, Jill?
So the city that he was patrolling on that bike is called
Ternopil.
Yeah. Did you hear it?
Yeah, it's a city in western Ukraine today.
Now in
Now
present day
in
Western Ukraine.
Yes.
So we know from our family that grandma was rounded up and brought to a labor camp on her 18th birthday out of Poland.
1939.
Correct. Grandpa was going to eventually end up in that same labor camp, but went there in a completely different way. So it was mandatory. It's my understanding. And again, I'm not a historian, very, very limited information, but it was my understanding that if you were a Polish man between like 18 and 24, you had to enlist in the services for 25 months. So our grandfather was at that prime age and enlisted to be a part of the army, the Army of Poland. He was fighting in the war with the Germans when he was captured, and he was brought to a concentration camp. What was the name of the concentration camp?
Buchenwald, according to your outline.
Yeah. And the thing is that usually prisoners of war weren't taken to concentration camps, but this was a special situation. And this concentration camp was known to house prisoners of war. And Grandpa stayed in that concentration camp from September 3rd, 1942. And I know this because I found the records of Grandpa being there, which is the saddest thing on earth, all the way until March of 1943. And the only way he had gotten out of that concentration camp was because his father, who had political means and political connections, started looking into what happened to his son. And he had intervened. And so they had taken Grandpa out of the concentration camp and brought to the labor camp.
Right. And a couple notes on this. One is that Grandpa was not Jewish.
No,
right. So
we're Catholic for life.
He didn't have that obstacle, right? Like, I don't think if he had been Jewish, a call from his dad or his father intervening probably would not have helped. Right. But so that was good news. Janet told me, or maybe
I was just going to tell you what Janet told me.
Oh, tell me about his time there.
No, tell me. Did Janet tell you?
I think so. About the potato soup.
Yes.
Yes, that he was basically starving to death and all he had was watery, quote unquote, soup, watery potatoes. And that's all he ate for that time.
It was when Janet told me the image of like half boiled chunks of potato in just starchy water came into my head. Yeah. Like it wasn't soup. It was like starch water with like chunks of uncooked potato.
Right. It's like you boil potatoes in the water and then you serve the soup with maybe a half a chunk of potato.
Exactly. So to think about that, and Janet used the word starving with me.
Yes.
Like they were starving him at this concentration camp.
Yes, that's my understanding.
It's just horrific because I never knew that. I knew that Grandma and Grandpa were both in labor camps, but I didn't know he went to a concentration camp first.
I didn't either. That's not something that I knew until we were talking yesterday about this history. I had no idea. I do know, though, that Grandpa wasn't doing manual labor the way Grandma was in that camp.
True.
He was more of a guard, right? Like he had a higher position. I don't know what kind of work he was doing, but it wasn't working in the fields with the women.
So I was always under the assumption, for whatever reason, that Grandpa had a cushy situation in World War II.
So was I.
Let me just go into that. Like I none of my history ever in my life have been told that Grandpa was actually in a concentration camp. So when he got to the labor camp, which was in,
1943.
1943, it's Heilbronn, Germany.
Heilbronn.
Heilbronn, Germany. That's where he met Grandma, where they put him in a labor camp. Now, my understanding of his time there is that he was not a field worker.
Right.
But I don't exactly know what he did there.
You know what? It's funny because our information comes from Grandma, and from Grandma's perspective, he had a cushy job. Let's just
Right.
leave it there. And knowing Grandma's perspective about what was cushy and what was like real work, that's no kind of bar that you and I can understand.
Not at all. And Grandma almost died twice at the labor camp because she took work really seriously. Like,
Yeah, I don't think she had a choice though in that situation.
She was proud that they liked her. She was
She
proud
was a good worker, yeah.
that she was a good worker. And she was such a good worker. She was promoted from the fields to clean up in what she called the palace, which was really the big house
Yeah.
on the land. Yeah. So now, Jennifer, how did our grandparents meet at the camp?
Okay, my understanding is, and I know you're going to correct me if I have details that are different from the ones you understand, but my understanding is that Grandma and her sister were both in this work camp. And her sister was having a young man over, like he was courting her. And the young man who came to their place,
Their barracks.
wherever it was, barracks, apartment, whatever, he came and he brought his friend who happened to be Stanley, our grandpa. And that's when Grandma and Grandpa met. And from Grandma's perspective, she had always wanted to be a nun. But when she saw Grandpa at the door with this other young man who was there for her sister, she looked at him and recognized him, and then knew that that was the man she was going to marry.
What did she recognize him from?
I don't know. Was it a dream, Jill?
Yes, you know this. You know
I
this.
don't.
It was a
I don't.
dream. How do
Tell
you not
me.
know this?
What did she dream?
She had a dream that a plane was coming down in the concentration. I'm sorry. A plane was coming down in the
work
camp, in the work camp where she was at. And the person that came out of the plane was Grandpa. So when she opened the door and saw Grandpa's face, because she answered the door, she said like a Polish swear word, which she said many, but I just don't know the particular one. And she knew that she was not going to be a nun and that she would have to marry this man. She liked it.
I understand he was very handsome.
I think he is really handsome. Grandpa was a very handsome man.
She knew it too. Grandma knew that he was handsome.
How do you know? Did you guys talk about it?
Yeah. She would always make that face, like, with like her lips kind of pursed, and she'd give like a short nod.
Mm-hmm.
Like
she doesn't want to like it, but she does. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so now post-war, we got Grandma and Grandpa hooking up. They get married. They have our Aunt Irene.
Yes, in Heilbronn, Germany. She was married in Germany around, I think, 1947, but I can't confirm that right now.
I think 1947 or late 1946, because I think Irene was born in 47. And I know Grandma wasn't playing around.
No, that's what I'm talking about. Aunt Irene
Yeah.
was born in 1947, I believe.
Yeah, 1947.
Yeah.
And then they moved to Paris.
Yes.
They Grandma, what did she say about Paris?
Grandma did not like Paris. She said it was dirty.
That's just one woman's perspective.
That's just one woman's perspective.
And she had really high standards, so please, you know what I mean? Forgive her.
I mean, it's a big European city. I will say this, though. I was wondering if Grandma's impression of Paris had something to do with Nazis occupying Paris. Like, so my question was it destroyed? Like, was it in shambles? Like when she showed up in 1947? And so I looked it up, and what I found out was no, it was not destroyed. It was occupied, but not destroyed. Hitler actually gave his commander the order to destroy Paris, to destroy all buildings, all monuments of any historical significance, any cultural significance. And the commander refused. The general refused, and instead he surrendered. I think he saw that the end of the war was there, and he saw the writing on the wall, and he couldn't, in his heart of hearts, destroy the history of the city for Hitler's ego. So I just want to bring
what
that
a
up.
bastard. I mean,
So-
honestly,
Grandma
I know this
mentioned-
isn't a hot take, but Hitler, you're a fucking bastard. Okay, go on.
Grandma mentioned that she didn't like Paris because there are rats there. But then she came around and moved to Chicago, and hello,
there
there
are
are
rats.
super rats in Chicago. So
There
I don't know
are
what to tell you.
steroid meth head rats in Chicago that will rob you for your CTA card.
Yeah.
Ain't lying.
No.
They'll be like, what? Yeah. Okay. So they have Aunt Irene. They moved
Yes.
to Paris. Grandma ain't digging it. And
No.
I actually thought that maybe her impression of Paris was that she didn't like it so much because maybe that was the first large city of its size that Grandma
Yeah.
had lived at.
It's true.
And
And that is true.
Yeah. So then they moved to Belgium. They moved to Liege, Belgium. Is that right? Liege?
No, it is not right. But I don't even know how to correct you. I just know that you are wrong. It looks like Liège, but we're just going to move on because, again, I don't speak French either.
And that's where our mom is from. That's where they
Yes.
made mommy.
Yep, that's where our mother was born in 1949. And also our Aunt Janet was born in Belgium as well.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
And while they were in Belgium, Grandpa was a laborer at
A mine, a coal mine.
mine.
A mine.
You have a story about that I would like you to share.
Yes. So I just spoke to our Aunt Janet, and she told me a story that I don't remember hearing before. And that is that Grandpa hated working in the coal mines, which, of course, it's one of the dirtiest, unhealthiest, most difficult, scariest jobs in
Yeah.
the world, in my opinion. And he worked in the coal mines and didn't enjoy that. And Grandma was also fearful for Grandpa, and she kept having these recurring dreams about an explosion and in the mines. She kept telling Grandpa, if you ever need to get out fast, follow the mice. Follow the mice. The mice will lead you out. And then after hearing the story from Janet, you did some research and you found something incredible.
You told me that there was an incident that Janet mentioned that Grandpa narrowly escaped with his life, that there was an
Yes.
incident at the mine, that he
In
actually
Belgium.
had in Belgium,
Yes.
that he actually had to follow the mice out.
Yes.
And so you said to me, I wonder if we could find any research about that and verify that if that happened. And because I am amazing, what did I find?
You found an article from Australia. Did you know that this is an Australian paper that you found?
Yeah.
1953, mine tragedy in Belgium. It says 39 miners were trapped by an explosion in a coal mine at Serang near Liège, Belgium yesterday. Rescue squads were quickly on the scene and rescued 15. 10 were taken to hospital seriously injured. Rescue squads battling to save the miners are afraid to put out the fire for fear of stifling the men underground. 3 are known to have died in the explosion and 10 are severely injured. Mine officials hold out hopes that the trapped men would be rescued, but blocks of rock and coal which caved in were hampering their rescue work. So Grandpa was one of the lucky ones to get out alive.
Without any major injuries.
Correct.
Gotta
Wow.
follow the mice.
Follow the mice. That is insane. One, because I never heard this story. And two, because as Janet's telling this to me, oh, Grandma had a dream. And then, this is the advice that she told Grandpa. Oh, and then there was an actual explosion and Grandpa got out. And I'm like, yeah, that has to be family lore. That's why I told you, look it up. And I'll be damned. It's fact. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
insane. And Grandma's dreams, by the way, are freaking off the hook.
Yeah.
Prophetic.
Yeah. We've talked about in Grandma episode, Grandma's prophetic dreams.
Especially the house burning down.
The house burning down, the munchkins.
The munchkins, but we didn't talk about her recognizing Grandpa and her predicting the mine explosion.
I did not know any of this until like yesterday, literally. Literally, it was yesterday that I found out this information and found it online. What's just sadder about that, side note, 3 years later, in a different part of Belgium, farther west, there was a terrible mining disaster. So when I started looking up like mining disaster, it was this incident that was minor in comparison to this huge one in 56 happened, and it like overshadowed this. So that's why I found it in the Australian paper, because whenever you looked it up, it would be the 1956, and they were already in America in 1956.
Yes.
And it was in a different city, and this was in the city that they were living.
Right. So tell us how they got to the United States.
Well, I'm so glad you asked. So let me just say, long story short, okay? Very long story.
Grandpa had trouble finding work that he liked in Belgium. He wanted to go to America. He didn't want to go back to Poland because the Soviets were still in Poland, and he refused to go back to Poland while the Soviets were there.
It was my understanding that if you were to go back to Poland, you would have to sign allegiance to Russia and be a Russian citizen.
Yeah, or a citizen of the Soviet Union. I don't know if they're synonymous, but yes.
Yeah.
And also, Janet told me that after he stopped working in the coal mines, he got a job paving the roads. Like, he worked for the roads. But it's very wet, apparently, in that part of the country. And so he's like, I can't do this work anymore. And so he's like, let's call your brother. Let's go to America. So she wrote her brother a letter.
So Grandma's mother, when she was a teenager at the start of World War I, went to America in Chicago to work in the stockyards, where she met grandmother's father. They had a thing. They got married in Chicago and had Uncle John. Uncle John is Grandma's older brother. So he is an American citizen.
Yes.
So he's living in America when all this shiznizzle is happening.
On the south side of Chicago.
On the south side of Chicago, Uncle John and Stella living in America while all hell's breaking loose in Europe. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Grandma writes Uncle John. She was like, hey, bro, I would really like to bring my family there. And we need to have someone sign off or sponsor. Yes.
Yes.
So with the help of the Catholic Charities in Belgium and in Chicago, they organized Grandpa getting his paperwork from Russia, and they paid for the travel for them and their 3 daughters to travel to Ellis Island via Flying Tiger Airlines in October of 1955.
I love it. I love it.
I love that our family went through Ellis Island.
They did, but they flew. Mm-hmm. They didn't take a boat.
One of my favorite pictures is Mom's passport picture. It's
Why?
the cutest thing. You know which one I'm talking about?
Oh, because she's a little girl?
Oh, she's so cute.
Gosh.
She's just the cutest little mama. Okay.
So
then from Ellis Island, they moved to the south side, and they're living on 47th Street.
Yes.
So that's where we met. That's where we met our grandpa.
They actually lived in a 1-room apartment with the bathroom in the hallway right next door to the home that they would buy years later. Did you know that?
Eventually burned down.
Yes, Mrs. Kowalski. They rented a room with Mrs. Kowalski, which was across the alley from Grandma's brother, Uncle John. and his family. And the mom remembered that the bathroom was in the hall and it was like communal. They had to share it.
There would be so many embarrassing moments for me if I had to share a bathroom with like different families. Like there would be a lot of cleaning, a lot of apologizing, a lot of I'm sorrying, a lot of matches, a whole bunch of stuff.
Matches to kill the odor. I don't know if that's not strong enough. You're kidding yourself.
Okay, so they move next door. They own their own apartment. They
buy the 4 flat, 2 apartments upstairs, 2 apartments downstairs.
And they have our Aunt Jeannie, the youngest of the 4.
Yes.
And they raise their family.
Yes.
And then we meet our grandpa.
I actually lived in that 4 flat until I was 5, until Mom and Dad moved to Forest Park.
Okay, there's a really cute story about you that it really is not really on topic, but Grandpa's in it. Can you tell me about you raking leaves for Grandpa in the backyard?
Oh my gosh.
Because this is like when Grandpa likes you, that means he's inviting you to do work with him.
That is true.
You get to work with Grandpa. So
yes.
So Grandpa must have really loved you because he was like, we are going to start working in the backyard today.
Well, it wasn't just Grandpa. Grandma and Grandpa were always working. Always working. Especially, like, Grandpa was always working or fixing something. Like, you know what I mean?
He can fix anything.
But he fixed it the Grandpa way. So it was a little like, it wasn't profesh, but it was good enough. You know what I mean?
It was going to make it through.
It's going to make it. So we were working in the yard, all of us, Grandma, Grandpa, and me. And my job was to sweep the leaves because the leaves were on the sidewalk, and that when you live there, that's not clean if the leaves are on the sidewalk. Okay, so I'm sweeping the leaves on the sidewalk, and Grandma and Grandpa are both on their open wooden porch, and they're fixing something on the porch. And I'm on the sidewalk, and I'm not raking. I am sweeping leaves into a pile, and so all of a sudden, this gust of wind comes and blows all my leaves all over the yard and the sidewalk. And so I utter a very familiar long string of sounds that I don't know what they mean. It's clearly Polish, and I've only heard these sounds uttered with vehemence when someone is very angry. When Grandpa's very angry, he would say these words. And so I was very angry, and so I said the very loud swear word in Polish, actually a number of swear words all strung together that I knew from hearing him say that. And so I said this loudly, and then I stopped and I was like, oh, I am in so much trouble. And I look up at the stairs, and Grandma and Grandpa are frozen looking at me with their mouths open. And I was like, oh shit, I'm in trouble now. And they looked at me for a second, and then they both started laughing so hard. They couldn't stop laughing. And then they just said, Jennifer, don't say that. Don't say that. They didn't even ask me, like, where did you learn this?
No, because they like knew. They only have themselves to blame. Only themselves.
That's one of my favorite memories of all time, because I thought I was going to get my ass kicked because I didn't know what I was saying, but I knew I shouldn't have been saying it. And yeah, it was fun.
So I was on the phone with our cousin Renee, and she told me that Grandpa, who is a huge fan of wrestling and boxing, would take her and her younger brother Bobby to the Chicago arena for wrestling matches. And as soon as I said that, what did you say?
I was there. I remember being at an arena, and I don't remember any of the wrestling. I don't remember the event. All I remember is being so scared because I was little and I was looking up, holding on to Grandpa's hand. And I was like, do not let go of me, because it was so crowded and we were walking. And that's what I remember. But until you said that, I didn't realize that I was at the auditorium or what that event was. It's just in my memory being scared that he was going to lose me because there were so many people around.
Another memory that Janet had of Grandpa growing up as his daughter is that he was a very proud man and he liked to save money for something special for his girls. So he
Aw.
would and not like for Christmas or anything. He would just save enough money so then when he was walking down the street to or from whatever job, if he saw something that he thought one of the girls would appreciate, he would buy it. So they had watches, they had necklaces that he would just randomly buy for them.
Aw, I didn't know that.
When I was asking Julie, our Janet's youngest child, our cousin Julie, about Grandpa and any memories, she said, well, I remember him taking me for shoes. He bought me shoes.
Aw.
And it was just like this ongoing thread of just how he was as a person. He was a schnazzy dresser when he needed to be. You were talking about bricklaying on the streets of Belgium. I have a picture of Grandpa dressed in a suit, carrying Mom, holding Aunt Irene's hand.
Yeah,
on
it's
those
a great
streets.
picture.
It's a great picture.
He also had a great head of hair. Up until the day he died, it was thick and he had like the real short cut. So I would just remember always like touching his head because his hair was short and soft and kind of like a brush. Do you know what I mean? Because he had a buzz cut. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He also had a lot of fun with the kids.
He did.
Grandma would be at the table with you. If you were hanging out with Grandma, you would be at the table or in the yard doing some manual labor.
But
if you were hanging out with Grandpa, you were either in the yard playing or in the yard doing some manual labor.
True.
So there are pictures of him hanging out with the kids, having kids like hanging on him and like things like that. We have a lot of good old pictures. Even our older sister, Kim, who is our half sister, I have a picture of Grandpa giving her money and kissing her for her birthday.
Aw. And she always said that both Grandma and Grandpa made her feel like any of their other grandkids. Mm-hmm. You know, she felt very, very welcome by both of them. But I will also say that Grandpa was when he wasn't working on something in the house, if he was home, he was usually drinking.
True. Drinking and smoking.
Drinking and smoking. And he was so silly. He was such a silly person. And Grandma, you would just sit back because Grandpa and Grandma were the entertainment because he would say something silly and she would get angrier and she would be more serious and he would say something silly. And it was just like he knew how to push her buttons, but he was doing it to entertain us too. And we'd be like, oh, Grandpa, don't say it. You're going to get hit. You know what I mean? I remember her reprimanding him in Polish and him picking up his hand and like doing like a little sock puppet gesture, like mimicking her with his hand. And I was like, oh shit, she's going to hit you. She used to hit him.
Yeah, she used to hit him. But Janet told me that they were very flirty and like he would like lean over to her and say something and she would be like, and like she would like elbow him, you know, like he was saying something inappropriate and she would be like, not now, Stanley, you know, kind of thing. Really cute.
I remember him being very silly. The other thing I do remember too is Grandma really respected the fact that Grandpa worked every day. And when he came home, the house was ready for him, like old style 1950s. And at this point, it was like late 70s, 80s that I remember this. But when Grandpa came home, the food on the table, it was all for him. Like nobody ate until Grandpa ate. He ate first. So she really respected him and she took care of him, even though she did hit him upside the head a lot when he was
I remember
drinking.
that being on Normandy with them and I forgot what they were talking about, but Grandpa said, this was translated to me from Mom. Grandpa said, I would have to die first because no one can take care of me the way you do.
Aww.
And that was Mom's reaction. I was like, what'd they say? What's going on?
See, all those moments we missed because they spoke Polish to each other.
Purposefully.
And I'll also
purposefully did not teach us Polish for exactly that reason.
I'll also say that Grandpa could speak English, but to me, from my perspective, it was more superficial Like, I couldn't have a deep conversation with Grandpa. I could have a deeper conversation with Grandma. I feel like Grandma was able to articulate better in English than Grandpa.
So Grandpa, I was yelled at by Grandpa once.
In
And-
English?
In English.
Oh, how'd he do?
He did really well. Message received.
Wow.
But he wasn't yelling at me.
Yeah,
he
it was just stern
speaking in a
voice.
strong voice and saying that I'm not living up to my potential and I have the strength of so many and I'm not doing anything.
Wow.
And I
Nailed
was like,
it.
God damn, Grandpa. And so yeah, that he told me that. Yeah. So when he was mad, he was able to get out just enough words to make you pick up what he's dropping down. But I remember working with Grandpa, we had a hand mower.
Yes.
Which
with
was
the blades,
with
the
the
open
blades.
blades that just
And-
turned.
I would get so many blisters because it's not like we mowed every week. It was like we had families of rabbits and foxes living in our grass. And then I would take the mower out. And that's why he was mad. He's like, why is this grass up to my knees? Right.
Right.
So,
because
and
at
then
that
I would hurt
length,
myself.
Yeah. And at that length, the grass just wraps around the blades because it's open. You should not have been doing that. That was
Well-
not a contraption for a child. It was
Well,
two wheels with open blades spinning
That's
between them.
true. If I were keeping up on it the way I should have been, it would have been safer. But I wasn't. So like it would be like Grandma and Grandpa are coming over on a Saturday. So then I
Right.
would like grab the mower with the blades, and then I would get blisters. So when Grandma and Grandpa come over, he would know.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that the grass was a friggin' mess, and it was like just chop, chop, chop. You know, like a bad haircut. Anyway.
Seriously, that must have been a mower from the 1950s. I bet you it was. And we were using it in the
50s?
80s.
That's being generous.
Well, they didn't bring one over from Belgium. So yeah,
No, but
it had to have been in the
maybe
from
they
the
got it
1950s.
like the
All right,
like
we're gonna look it up.
a secondhand shop or something.
We'll find
Anyway.
out. Anyway.
So, do you have any other Grandpa stories that you want to mention before we talk about Grandpa in spirit?
Yes, I think it's notable that he adored General Patton. And when in the early 80s, we didn't have a lot of VHS tapes, but we did have Patton, the movie with George C. Scott. It was a long one. Two tapes. Do you remember? 2 tapes.
I remember the double
Yes.
VHSs. Yes.
The double VHS tape. And it is, of course, a World War II movie about General Patton. And Grandpa loved Patton. And every time he came over for a confirmation or for Thanksgiving or whatever, anytime he came to the house, Mom would be like, go put on Patton for your grandpa. And so I would put on Patton and he would just sit there and just watch it through. And I think I asked my mom, she's your mom too, so I think we can just call her Mom. I asked, why does he always want to watch Patton? And it was because General Patton didn't trust the Soviet Union and wanted to push him out of Poland. He sided with Polish independence. And now that I know that specifically the part of Poland that Soviet Union claimed is the part that was Grandpa's home, the part that he was born in, that just brings it home for me. Like, I get it now. You know, I thought he was just a war hero. No, it was personal for Grandpa. And I didn't know all those times that Grandma was like, go put it on Patton. And I sat there watching this very boring movie with him, in my perspective, when I was a youngster. So anyway.
I don't remember watching Patton with him. I remember watching on a black and white TV with bunny ears boxing.
Yes.
That's what we used to watch together.
Also polka. I remember dancing the polka with Grandma and Grandpa in their living room with the TV with the rabbit ears. I think it was like
makes me
Lawrence Welk, I want to say. I don't know if that's accurate or not. But polka came on. We danced. It happened. I was there.
I believe you. Okay. Now, Grandpa, unfortunately, like we said, was the first of our
Spirit
immediate
team.
family to die.
Yes.
He was the first to cross over, and he died in
1992.
1992?
Yeah, because
93. No?
you said you were
90
12.
In March of 93,
Oh
I was
my gosh.
11.
All right.
Or
Fine.
March of 93, I was 12. Yeah, I was 12. I was
Yeah.
in 7th grade.
Okay, so 93.
Okay, so I had gotten a psychic reading years ago, And there was an instant in my childhood where Grandpa really hurt my feelings. And I never said anything about it. I never mentioned it. I never said anything about it. I didn't tell anyone about it. It was just like, Grandpa hurt my feelings. It was like a bunch of like, I don't even want to go into it, but Grandpa hurt my feelings, and it was in front of people, like strangers. In this psychic reading, I don't even remember the psychic, but the psychic brought up the situation and said, that's not what he meant. That's not what I took what he was saying wrong. And he said he feels so sorry that I was hurting all these years when he wasn't trying, like it was just a misunderstanding.
Oh my, Jill, oh my God. I have to stop you right there, because remember how I told you that I used Grandpa's picture in our class, the class that I'm teaching, the psychic development class, because I needed someone to come through. And so I used Grandpa, because we haven't talked about Grandpa in depth on the podcast. So I wanted to bring someone. Michelle, who's in the class, was reading from Grandpa's picture. The second thing she wrote, she sent me her notes. The first thing she said was P name. And I'm like, yeah, that was his last name. The second thing, misunderstanding. And you just said that it was a misunderstanding. So that was just, he brought it up again for you.
It gives me goosebumps.
Oh my God, Grandpa coming through.
I know he's really close to us in spirit, which
Yes.
In life, Grandpa was always around, but like in the background. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, and that's how he comes through in spirit. He's always around, and he'll let you know he's around when you need to know he's around. Right?
Yes, right.
So, yeah. So I had an instance where I don't know what in the hell you were doing, but I don't know what I was doing, but I had to call you to tell you that Grandpa thought you were strong.
And when you called me to tell me this years ago, I remember exactly what I was doing, because I had just brought a piece of furniture from Grandma and Grandpa's house on Normandy. And I was bringing it down my stairs to my basement. And it was a piece of furniture that belonged to Grandpa. In the 1950s, after he moved to the United States, he bought this radio cabinet. Now, back then, a radio would come in like a big piece of furniture. And it's this big piece of furniture. One side is a radio. The other side is sliding glass doors where he kept his booze. And so it was like liquor cabinet / radio. And my husband and I were bringing it down the stairs. And you called and said that Grandpa came to you and said that I was strong. And it made me laugh because, I was just carrying his cabinet into my basement.
Didn't something else happen that day?
Oh, yeah. And I also had his clock. And the clock, which hasn't worked for years and years, it's one of those wind-up key clocks. You have to wind it. It just chimed by itself for no reason. For no reason. So Grandpa was coming through. I think he likes that I have some of his things here, things that he was proud of.
I know he does. I know he does.
That makes me happy. He comes through when I need protection and strength. Like, he reminds me I'm strong like bull.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that's what he used to say.
He used to say, strong like bull.
Mm-hmm. He comes through. I channel Grandpa, and I feel his presence when I'm doing anything home improvement.
Yes, I can see that.
If I'm doing gardening or any kind of home improvement. I just did a wallpaper in my kitchen, and I was like measuring stuff out. And I'm so googly at everything. You understand, like if you really knew me, you know that like if I do something, I'm always off. It's like my brand. And when I was doing this wallpaper thing, I was like, I can't, like I was fixing it. I was like channeling, like I'm doing this right. If we're going to do this, we're going to do this right.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Also, I want to mention too that I love his connection with our second cousin, Jenny.
She's so cute.
What I love so much about it is that when he died, I don't think Jenny was like 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah.
She was little. And that was her great grandpa. And he died. And today.
She calls him Grandpa Stanley.
Today, like just like these days, she feels him around her. And it just occurred to me recently that Grandpa was a police officer and she was a police officer. And I think that maybe that's part of the connection. I don't know, but I just love that he comes through for her because she was just so little.
She literally looks like his sister number one. No, I'm serious. She really does. The cheekbones.
Yeah,
Number two, she has a daughter that looks like our mother.
that is true.
That is like crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Because mom was like the black sheep of the family. Like she did not look like the rest of them.
I agree.
Right?
Right.
And so you have Jenny who looks like she could be directly related when I mean like a child or of our grandpa because she looks like that side of the family so strongly.
Yeah.
And then to have someone that looks like our mom as a child, it's just so crazy because they don't look alike. Grandpa and mom look nothing alike.
Yes. Yes, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
So that's why it's just kind of mind-boggling to me. I'm like, I don't know how the universe works. It's absurd. I don't know how, but it happens.
It is. Well, thank you for the research. Is there anything else you wanted to share about Grandpa at this time?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. I'm going to close it with my closing thoughts. Is that I'm sorry it took so long to get you on the pod, Grandpa. You are an important part of our lives, and I'm sorry you went too soon. But you were so much fun while you were here, and I appreciate all the laughs.
I love it. I miss him.
I miss him too.
I'll also say, do you mind if I say one more thing?
You cannot. It's done. It's over now, Jennifer. It's over.
That made me so sad.
You had your chance.
The other thing I just wanted to bring up the other day, again, psychic development class, Grandpa's picture was there. Everybody was reading it. Michelle afterwards gave me her notes. She said he's thankful for this because we don't talk about him as much. He was thankful to be used, his picture, he's thankful. So thank you, Jill, for, giving us, taking the lead on this and providing this platform to talk about him because he is a big part of our history, our upbringing, and our present. He's very active with us still. So thank you.
I just want to say one more thing.
Okay.
One more thing.
One more thing.
Okay, one more thing.
All right, close
Grandpa was really, really cute. And like instead of small talk, he would just say like observational things. like we would be hanging out in the backyard and like a bird will go by and he'll be like, she whistles. You know what I mean? And everything was a she because they don't have the same pronouns in Polish.
She whistles.
She was like, that was Grandpa's small talk. Like, nice day we're having. It would be like, she whistles. Yes. Or like, she's angry. Or like that's like his small talk. And you would be like, yes, Grandpa.
She whistles.
It just makes me happy.
True. I love it. All right. So I just want to say that this is
the last week of your partner development class. You've done
psychic
so
development
much.
class. Yes, it was a partner class.
Psychic development class.
And yes, it has been so fun and fantastic. And I will say that this class came about because someone reached out and requested it. And I was like, okay, if you want it, let's do it. And then I opened it up and we had a nice group. So if anyone out there would like an a la carte sort of class for newbies, I think, I'm gearing more towards newbies, people who are just learning about their clairs, their own abilities. I think I'm seeing wonderful things from the people in the class in terms of opening up, taking some chances, and really, really seeing results. So
I am very proud of you. It makes me so happy. One of the things that you enjoy doing is helping people learn and giving people the tools and watching them evolve. And it's one of the things that bring you so much joy. So
true.
every Friday in the morning when I talk to you, you are just beaming with love and accomplishment because you've helped people further their own potential. And it just makes you really happy. So you're a huge nerd. That's what I was
thank
getting.
you. I will take that as a compliment. Thank you.
It is a compliment. I love you, and I'm really, really, really proud of you.
Stop. So anybody out there who is interested, please email me, and we can set something up if you're interested in a psychic development class. Yes, Jill?
Okay. Yes. Some community announcements.
Oh, there's more.
Yes, there's more. You guys, out of nowhere, New York City, our second highest demographic. How
Where
does
did
that happen?
come from? I don't know.
I don't know. Who do we know in New York? New
nobody.
Yorkers are walking around listening to us.
We love you, New York.
We're coming, New York. We're coming for you. I don't know when, but we're going to be there. And thank you so much for listening. And please, you guys, thank you so much. We are obsessed with our numbers because we're trying to prove to people that to invest in us. So if you could share, if you can spread the word, if you can like us, please do so on all the socials and on wherever you're listening to this podcast. Also, please keep coming with the readings. We love the readings. Request a readings. DM me and Jennifer and request a reading because we love doing it. It not only helps us connect with you guys, but it helps us connect with our people on the other side. So we love it. Please.
Email.
Email.
Right? Email.
What's our email, Jennifer?
commonmystics.net. I don't know. What is it?
That's
commonmystics@gmail.com. I got it second time.
Yeah, she did.
Just
Okay.
needed a minute.
Yeah. Please email us at commonmystics@gmail.com.
I was so
Find
close.
us on all the socials at Common Mystics Pod. And our address via the World Wide Web is commonmystics.net.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All
I'm
right,
just saying it for
wonderful.
me at this point, not even for anyone else. I'm like, that's how to get a hold of us.
All right. Thank you, Jill. Love you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful, happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there. Thank you. Love
Bye. Love you. Bye.
you. Bye.
This has been a Common Mystics Media production. Editing done by Yokai Audio, Kalamazoo, Michigan.